Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to rise today in support of my colleague from Edmonton Gold Bar and to support some of his concerns about this amendment. I do not support this amendment. It does change the intent of the motion. I want to take a few minutes to address some of the things that the member from Fish Creek just shared with us. This amendment does change the intent of the motion. So when we talk about recognizing that the vast majority of oil and gas producers take their asset retirement obligations seriously and properly decommission and reclaim oil and gas sites at the end of the project, I just want to say if that was true, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation about abandoned wells if companies took their liabilities seriously. We wouldn't have to have this conversation because those wells would have been reclaimed and taken off the landscape. But we are here having this conversation, Mr. Speaker. And today I spent some time looking online to see if there was even a number that I could get an understanding of how many tens of thousands of abandoned wells are out there on the Alberta landscape. And did you know, Mr. Speaker, that I couldn't find a consistent number across media reports from the Abandoned Wells Association, from the Alberta Energy Regulator? And to me, that's awful. Sometimes it's 80,000, sometimes it's 120,000, sometimes it's 70,000. So I don't really know. We don't even know how many abandoned wells we're talking about here, Mr. Speaker. So don't sit there and try to tell me that companies are doing everything they can, because I really don't think that all of them are. Well cleanup needs to be done by entities that created the mess. This is a principle that I try to instill in my children every single day. If you make a mess, clean it up. Why do we not hold companies to the same standards that we try to hold our kids to, or at least I try to? The members opposite want to assert that it's happening, Mr. Speaker, and they're doing such a great job of it. The government is firmly committed. The truth is that the good things that companies are doing are overlooked. Well, let's just talk a little bit about the effectiveness of our enforcement and regulatory mechanisms around oil and gas liabilities, Mr. Speaker. So, over the last year, the Alberta Energy Regulator has sat on its hands while Imperial Curl oil sands leaked 5.3 million litres of tailings spilled into the area. The Fort Chippewa Nation ended up suing the AER, and at the end of the day, the AER fined Imperial Oil $50,000. Wow, my goodness, what a joke. Give me a break. The AER is clearly failing Albertans repeatedly and in so many ways. Research from Dr. Timoney, published in January of 2025, shows that the AER is failing to gather credible and relevant environmental data, failing to conduct routine on-site inspections, and being dishonest in its reporting of spill incidents with regards to oil sands tailings spills in Alberta. Of 514 tailings, the AER database that occurred over 10 years from 2014 to 2023 found that the 97% of tailing spills were not inspected by the AER, contradicting the AER's claim of routine spill inspections. The findings also show that for spill sites where photo documentation is provided, 41 to 54% of the sites show evidence of environmental harm, refuting claims from the AER that none of the 514 spills caused environmental damage. And this is the regulator that we're all supposed to trust is measuring abandoned wells and their reclamation. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, I don't trust the AER. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. And I'm pretty tough, so I think I could throw them pretty far, actually. So, speaking about abandoned wells specifically and the polluter pays principle, the polluter pays is executed through regulatory standards, fees and levies, and financial assurance. So who the regulator is, in this case the AER, is important. I feel like I've already demonstrated that the AER isn't really doing their jobs. But there's also, Mr. Speaker, a significant conflict of interest with the AER, given that David Yeager is on the AER board. He's also a senior advisor to the Premier, and he's the one who's authored this report of the new oil strategy thing that my colleague was referring to. So I feel like when one person is responsible for all of the things, we should be asking ourselves questions around conflict of interest, especially when that one person is responsible for the government's action on a report to take action on the things that their companies and their regulator are doing. The Environmental Law Centre did a pretty good review and analysis of the polluter pays principle in Alberta, Mr. Speaker, and as it turns out, the government is doing a moderately okay job, not a good job, and the regulator is doing a poor job. So how could we improve that? Well, the first thing is to ensure that environmental obligations are not avoided through insolvency. We've got bankrupt oil and gas companies leaving billions of dollars of liabilities on the landscape, tens of thousands of inactive wells. We don't know the exact number, as I've already said, Mr. Speaker. And the Orphan Well Association doesn't have the funds to clean them all. And the companies, as my colleague from Edmonton Gold Bar pointed out, have a plan to reclaim their liabilities that will take almost generations of Albertans, Mr. Speaker, to have any significant impact on the landscape. We must do better. There is nothing wrong with holding companies accountable for cleaning up their mess, just like there's nothing wrong with me reminding my daughter 18 times to clean her bedroom. The second thing is that we need to ensure Alberta's polluter pay system starts to reflect the costs imposed on terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. We also don't even fully take accurate environmental and social cost accounting of these liabilities on the landscape. The current system doesn't include all of the environmental and social costs, so we don't even really have a way to understand what the costs are. In particular, when it comes to being related to water, which we know we have pollution and sedimentation issues, and also water usage, Mr. Speaker. We are in a multi-year drought. Oil and gas developments and all resource extraction actually requires quite a bit of water. We've got efforts to change water licensing practices, and the Water Act is currently open for public consultation. So how is the polluter pay system being considered in amendments to the Water Act at the moment? We know that oil and gas liabilities impact aquatic habitat disturbance and loss, and we know that in Alberta we lose more wetlands every single year, Mr. Speaker, and even though we have a wetlands replacement program and wetlands remediation program, we still lose more wetlands than we gain. We need to ensure a workable system of polluter pays principle that can apply to cumulative effects. Cumulative effects are critical. We do very little to address it. In essence, Mr. Speaker, this amendment changes the motion. I will not support the amendment. I urge all members to support the original motion as written.